just a belated birthday to her.
What's her name?
Addison.
Addison, give her our best as well.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Addison. Dad has written a winner for you, and it's on Unbelievable Lad at number 6, closing off the pick 6, 6, 5, 13, and 2. That's the way they cross the line here, race number 9. We've got one more to go. That's the Exotics done and dusted. If you find yourself in the winner's queue, well played in the Exotics. But up next, race number 10, closing off our meeting at Scottsville.
And away they go from the 1400-meter marker. And this wasn't a bad beginning.
Television
Final
Network,
assembly is
a
among-
service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow and Sully Crotty. Good morning, Sully.
Good morning, Seth.
Flush off a nice rainbow day. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Congratulations
Thank
there.
you.
We'll hit on that. Speaking of the rainbow, we want to thank our friends at Gulfstream for their sponsorship. Gulfstream Park. Champions start here. Also a reminder, a little bit later this afternoon, NFL Sunday here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Watch the playoff action and all the racing action right here at 711 Central Avenue in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook. Don't forget Wednesdays also, 1% Florida bonus days. If you're betting Florida racing and you have a Capital Rewards account, that 1% bonus will add up on Wednesdays. More information at the website, capitalotb.com. Coming up a little later on, we're going to do some stakes recaps from the action yesterday and actually go back to Monday as well. Take a look at that Smarty Jones. We'll also do a little handicapping towards the end of the program. But the top of the program, wanted to reach out to our friend Dick Powell. He had a nice series of online articles this week looking at turf racing down at Gulfstream and some of the idiosyncrasies that maybe can play into your handicapping. Dick, good morning.
Seth, good morning. I'm still trying to recover from staring at charts and run-up numbers and rail positions. And it's a weird thing down there. They have this wide, expansive turf course, but unlike Belmont and Saratoga and now Aqueduct, they don't divide it into an inner and an outer. And in fact, the last week, there's been 3 turf courses. They've been running at 0 feet, 60 feet, and 120 feet. So there's an inner and outer based on the rail position, and then the last week we've had 3 distinct turf courses run at various distances with various run-up distances.
And the beauty is you've taken the time to kind of chart things out, and as I say, maybe point out some of the idiosyncrasies that can help us out in our handicapping. And you've already alluded to it, but let's set the stage because, as you say, and I'm guilty of it, I have to admit, I don't pay as much attention as I should, but it's very important when we, particularly we who bet at Saratoga, think about it, because they have that turf course down at Gulfstream, which, as you say, using the temporary rails, they essentially make 2 or perhaps 3 turf courses. At Saratoga, it is much more obvious with the hedge there, and in fact, the past performances will make the distinction at Saratoga or at Belmont. I assume now at Aqueduct as well, but there will be the inner turf course or the outer turf course, and we know they can play very differently. Well, it's important to think the same way down at Gulfstream.
Yes, and the only place that I've seen where it does give you the data is Equibase past performances, which I don't use, but I notice when I get my TDN at night, they might preview a horse for the next day, and it says Jockey Club Information System past performances, and when you go there for a turf race, it will give you the rail position and the run-up distance.
That's interesting. I'm just going to point out for folks who want to know, and I pulled up some screenshots yesterday. On the charts, you can find out on the charts where the rail position were. That's actually the graphic for finding out the day of the race that you're showing now. The chart, though, has where the race was run, and you can find that kind of up at the top of the charts and then down below the running lines as well. There you see it right there for Gulfstream. The race won on the 19th. The rail was at 120. So you can look at the chart and see it. And what we just saw previously was if you want to know where they are today, go to that scratches and changes page at Gulfstream, and they'll list it there. But that's interesting. So if you pull up the Equibase past performances the day of the race, you can find them there as well.
No, even ahead of the race, because most past performance generators will give you the rail placement when the race is drawn. I mean, they know that ahead of time. So it'll say, 120 feet or whatever it's going to be. My issue is the run-up, because what happens is we see when you chart this the way I chart it in a spreadsheet, we see days where the rail is at the same position, and yet the run-up is dramatically different.
Yeah.
So, for instance, 5 furlongs, there are times when the rail's at, let's say, 120 feet, and the run-up is 124 feet. And then they run a race the same distance at the same rail, and the run-up is 260 feet. So logically, that first quarter should be much faster with the 262-foot run-up. When you have a really short run-up, like 5 feet, that's like a standing start. And in fact, if you follow international racing, you just had South African racing on. You follow international racing, all races get timed when the starter presses the button. There is no run-up. There's no such thing as a run-up. They run accurate distances, and they time their races accurately. So you always see, even the Hong Kong Sprint, you'll see 24 first quarter, 22, for 108 for 6 furlongs. But that first quarter was a standing start. Well, with the run-up, you get a pretty good head start. So now you're hitting that timing pole going pretty quick. And it kind of gives you an indication of, gee, this race looked awfully slow, but then you look at it, it might have had a short run-up, so it might have been kind of a standing start type race. No, it's just, now this is getting into, really inside baseball stuff. But what I tried to do is, once I had the data entered, and what I did this up until January 7th. I've since, in my own spreadsheet, I've updated it through yesterday. But what I tried to do with the big enough sample, because they ran 194 turf races in 5 weeks at Gulfstream. I mean, they're making Saratoga jealous with the amount of turf races they're running down there. And then when you put in this kind of data, and then you start doing some sorts, I'm trying to look for things that are going to jump out at me. I'm not going in looking for anything specifically. I want to see what the results are. So, for instance, put everything in, and field size averages about 9.83. So that's good. That they do very well with that. So then the first thing, I tried to examine 2 things. Where you are at the first call. And for distance races, 2-turn races, it's after a quarter mile. On 5 furlong sprint races, it's after 3/16 of a mile. And that gives me an indication of his speed holding up. Do you have to be up close? Do you have to be far back? And over time, you get these trends. Well, in turf racing, especially in the sprint races, you had to be pretty close to the front third of the pack. you weren't rallying from too far back going 5 furlongs. And the numbers certainly pointed that out. 5 furlong races are usually run with the rail out because when they run it with the rail down at 0 feet, it's a quick finish, and it's really unfair to anyone on the outside. So when we get to 2-turn races, the average position of the winner was 4.6 at the first call, which is, just slightly better than the first half of the field. So you're not way in front, you're not way behind. But then when I started breaking them down into segments and the rail positions, when they run at 0 feet, which is what we would consider the inner turf course on the hedge, speed does well. And when they have the rail out at 12, 24, and 36 feet, for some reason, speed did even better. There were 9 races out of 32 races that were 1 gate to wire. So between 0 and 36, speed does very well on any of the 2-turn common distance, 7.5, 1 mile, 1 and a 16th. Once you get outside that, it kind of flattens itself out. So with the rail far out, 96 to 120, speed does worse than average. So what you do is you come up with an average, and then you see what's better than average, what's worse than average, and then is it significant? If it's just 1/10 or 2/10 of a point, it's not significant. But it certainly showed that going 2 turns, being up near the lead, first, second, third, was a good place to be. And I also did a quick look at all 194 turf races that have been run so far at the meet. And 20% of them will run from post 1, 26 more percent of them. 26 will also run from post 2. So 33% will run 1 from post 1 and 2. So that logically makes sense, turf racing, saving ground, things like that. But once we have that established as far as where you need to be going 2 turns, then we kind of look at post position going 2 turns. And what I found was it was basically the average was about 5. So with field size 9.87, and the average winning post position was just around 5. So then, well, what's less and what's more? And what I found out was for rail placements going 1 mile and 1.6 mile, the rail between 0 and 36 feet, the winning post position was 4.21. That's pretty good compared to the average of 5. And there were 13 1-turn mile races when the rail was between 84 and 120 feet, and the average winning post position was 5.7. Now that's way above 5. So that's significant. So I tried to draw some global conclusions in the study just to keep track of. This is with post positions. Going 7.5 furlongs when the rail is 0 or 12 feet, the average winning post positions are much higher for some reason. That doesn't make sense, but that's the way it's been. When the rail's between 24 and 36 feet, the average winning post position is much lower. Going a mile when the rail's between 0 and 36 feet, the average winning post position is much lower. And when the rail is between 72 and 120 feet, the average winning post position is around 5, which is about average. Now, I also addressed run-up distances at the end, and I said I can't see any meaningful correlation and an effect on how the races are run. Some of it's logical. If you're going to run 7.5 furlongs when the rail is out, you basically have a mile turf course on the outside, because the main track is a mile and an eighth. So if you're running a 7.5 furlong turf course, then you're not going to have much distance to do anything else. So usually the rail is pretty far out to give you time to get into the turn. And the run-ups vary. I mean, it can go from 0 or it can go to 300 feet. A lot of that depends on the course, wear and tear, where they're putting the tractor, stuff like that. It's not like Saratoga with there's only a limited number of gaps that they can put that tractor through to bring the starting gate out onto the turf course. Gulfstream has a little bit more flexibility, a lot more flexibility than Saratoga. And 5 furlong sprints, obviously, speed does extremely well. I also looked just screwing around. I was looking at the 2 top jockeys right now, Luis Saez and Tyler Gaffalione. Louis has 56 winners. Tyler has 43. On turf, 30 of Tyler's 43 victories came on turf. So Tyler's winning 24% with his turf rides. Louis drops down to 16%. And then you look at a guy like Aramillo, who good young rider down there. He's only 9% on turf, and yet he's winning like 24% on dirt. So for the younger riders, it's kind of a disadvantage because turf seems to be, the old Jerry Bailey thing: save ground, look for a team, kick through, stuff like that. And the younger riders don't have a lot of experience doing that. They're getting it. They're running. They ran 7 turf races yesterday, so they're getting a lot of experience. But Gaffalione's been really terrific on turf, and that kind of caught my eye because I know Tyler's a terrific young rider, but I didn't realize he was doing that well on turf racing until you actually pull up the stats and stuff. So it's a constant moving target. The minute you think it's going to be one way, it can start trending a different way. But what I like to do is at least have this kind of context in my head that if I'm handicapping a race, at least now I can look at a glance to see where the rail was that day for that race. I might want to look at the run-up, maybe not, and then have a picture of, the horse drew on the outside and the rail was out, so that probably was not a disadvantage like you might think it would be.
Yeah, I pulled up, you mentioned it, you had highlighted going 7.5 furlongs when the rail is either 0 or 12. The average winning posts are a little higher than, a little bit aberrationally higher perhaps. And I pulled up a race from last Thursday to show this and just to give people a look also at the configuration. The rail here last Thursday, the 9th race, 0 feet. The run-up is listed as 192 feet. And it's interesting, Dick, because they almost come under the wire in reverse order. The finishing post positions 9, 8, 7, 5, 6, 4, 2, 3, 1. The 1 runs last as the 5-2 favorite, and the number 9 wins. So again, it's an outside post position winning when the rail at 7.5 was at 0. But it plays into a couple of things, and we see them here as they go into the first turn. Jose Ortiz gets the horse well placed and sits pretty much just off the leader most of the way around. So it's a forwardly placed horse that winds up winning the race. And B, it's Jose Ortiz. So jockey makes a lot of difference, and the jockey then getting out and getting the position is going to make difference as well.
Yeah, and then Jose's been known to break horses well and get them involved early. And if he does have the right horse with the right running style from the right post position, you pretty much know what he's going to do. His hand has already been tipped, and it's a course that I used to like wide closes when the rail was far out, and I still do. But there's been a lot of races, and part of this just might be the general lack of rain. It's been firm, God knows how many days out of the meet, but those wide closes that used to come flying off the turn. And even with the shorter run to the finish, would get up in time. Boy, oftentimes there's a horse or two that's already broken the race open, and they're just not going to get there. So those races I've been wrong on, and like we were talking before with the Rainbow Six, these are the Rainbow Six races.
Yeah.
They write 1 or 2 turf races in the first 5, and then there's like 4 within that Rainbow Six with big fields. So if you're not paying attention to this stuff, I think you're giving up some advantage because, like you said, it'd be like going to Saratoga, not even paying attention to see if the race is on the inner or the outer. Do you, after having done kind of this research, do you come away with any real takeaways that to you are now bullet points that you'll be looking at specifically? 5 furlongs, gotta have speed. And part of that surprised me because having been a fairground guy for many years, we used to have tons of horse that rallied off the pace going 5.5 furlongs. That was not a problem. But at Gulfstream, boy, you get out you're in the race. And it's just a tough course to come from behind on. So 5 furlongs, I'd say. Definitely speed. Go in 2 turns. I like to be inside if I can. Now, then I'll look at the running profile. If the horse is a speed horse, great. If it's a dead closer, great. If it's a mid-pack horse, now I got to worry about, am I going to get shuffled? Am I going to get used hard too early and try to avoid traffic? So that makes it dicey for me. You know, day in, day out on turf, middle posts are pretty good in the sense that you're almost better off with the clear path than saving ground and getting into trouble. So when you look at something like Trackus and you're examining, you know, how far horses ran, well, sometimes the horse who ran the farthest had the cleanest trip.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like giving that horse brownie points because, oh, look, he ran 40 feet farther than this other horse. But the other horse was bottled up in traffic, and this one was clear sailing on the outside. So that's where race watching is still very key, very critical, and picking out trips in these races that you'll see quite a bit of trips going on. And, I'll keep track of it, and I'll keep following it. I'll probably do a follow-up. They ran 7 yesterday, so the sample sizes are getting pretty good.
Tim Riffo clearly loves the turf racing, as do the bettors, and that's why Tim Riffo likes it. The bettors like it, nice full fields, and as I said to you earlier before we got on the air, the big fields are what, for me, it now makes that rainbow so difficult to play. You have big fields, you look, you have 4 or 5 horses that are alive in there, all of a sudden the budget ticket blows up a little bit. But I also noted, for me as an exacta player on a race-by-race basis, I love it.
Look at yesterday. You had, I think it was race 2, and I think it was a third race, but it was a 3 to 5 shot that won, and then it was like 70-1, 40-1, 50.
Yeah.
It's like everything behind this horse was huge, and so huge try, super. Even exacta was 160 or 130 for $2. I mean, the prices behind it were gigantic because you couldn't handicap the rest of the race. The 3 to 5 probably should have been 1 to 5, but everyone else was gigantic. And with field size, to me, I know that I don't want to enter. I don't want to touch the third rail of takeout, because if you say anything that's not pro lowering takeout, you're a bad guy and you hate the game, this and that. But to me, as a bettor, field size is way more important than takeout.
Yeah. And I think that Tim Riffo recognizes that, which is good for Florida racing. It's turned out to be good for Maryland racing, and we'll see how well he can do out in Southern California. Dick, again, I'll remind people to swing by. I have it linked on Equidaily, the series of articles you wrote about turf and some of the idiosyncrasies of the various rail positions, so folks can go to Equidaily, pull up your articles. It was well done, and again, maybe gives folks something they can tuck into the back pocket for handicapping in the future. And Dick, we appreciate the visit. You headed down next week, Pegasus?
You know, I have a flight booked to go. I had minor knee surgery a couple weeks ago, and I'm not going to go.
Oh, okay.
I was kind of on the fence. I booked a flight early to get a good price, and then I was supposed to have this surgery, and then it got delayed because I had a bad cold, and I had it right after January. So I'm not up for it.
I hear you. Well, feel better, and again, Dick, appreciate the visit this morning.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Dick Powell, again, you can swing by Equidaily.com, and I have the link to, there's a series of 3 articles Dick did last week looking at the various rail positions and what you can take away from that. All right, we'll head to our first break. When we come back, some nice stakes action around the country yesterday, and we'll go back to Monday as well with the Smarty Jones. All of that right after this. A little bit later on, some handicapping as well. Stay tuned.
It may be cold in the Northeast, but in South Florida, the action's hot. This winter, be part of the championship meet at Gulfstream Park, where the fields are deep and the payouts are big. With some of the most competitive turf racing in America, Gulfstream Park is your winter destination for the finest in championship thoroughbred horse racing. And if you're looking for the top jockeys and best trainers, you'll find them all at Gulfstream Park. So play it today. Gulfstream Park. Champions start here.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow and Sully Crotty going to take a look now at some of the stakes action from yesterday. And as I said, also wanted to go back to a little earlier this week and talk about the Smarty Jones, get some of your thoughts as well, Sully, because it was a nice 3-year-old stakes weekend last weekend. The Jerome, we talked about that last Sunday morning, as well as the LeCompte. But on Monday, on the holiday, the 3-year-old trail in Arkansas got off to a start, and it was the Smarty Jones. The race fell apart a little bit with the Scratch and Navistar from Todd Pletcher. I guess there were some travel plans that just didn't come together there. So it wound up to be a field of 5. But Marino, the number 4 horse, wins over Combatant, the Steve Asmussen runner coming out of the second in the Springboard. I said coming away from the weekend with instilled regard down in Louisiana and Marino Monday in Arkansas, the takeaway from the 3-year-olds last weekend was just flattered the West Coast runners.
Right, and as you said, the Marino, that was, you saw in the stretch run, that was just a great ride there. I thought the 1 for Asmussen ran well as well, but the 3-year-old races so far early in the Derby point system and this overall throughout 2018, they have been fantastic, and out west as well. They came up to run, and we saw a lot of that last weekend over this weekend as well. Yeah, Marino in the race before, the Bob Hope had finished second to Gravitos, and that's one interesting horse that's interesting as well. But Combatant, well beaten with the chart margin 3 1/4, but Combatant was 8 ahead of the 3rd place finisher. Still lightly raced, maybe a little bit of a disappointment that he was beaten as easily as he was, Combatant. But a lot of the races on the weekend, I think the horses are coming out. Last weekend, horses are coming out. Frenzy Fire and 7 Trumpets. I want to see one more from them. So there's situations where I think there's potential here, but we're still early enough on the Derby trail. Mask down, I was going to say that was a pretty impressive performance, but he probably still has to prove it too. We're baby steps on the Derby trail. I haven't looked at any of them, though, where I'm thinking, I don't know whether I'm enthusiastic about. I think so far, the races we've seen, the horses who have won came in with enough credentials that coming out, they didn't do it in a way that necessarily you can say, I'm on board that one, but they did it, that they're still live moving forward. Right, and as you said, Mask and the race we just saw down at Oaklawn, Moreno, those horses, going in, looking at the past performances, you kind of expect those horses to run big and run well. And we saw the replay. The horse did run well, but again, if that horse ends as another stake, I don't know if I'm going to be as comfortable because I know other horses are improving as well.
Yeah, we talked to Jeremy Planck, who does Countdown to the Crown yesterday, and he, it was a 5-horse field with Stretch and Navistar that took some. So that's why I say I want to see another one.
A little bit more improvement.
Yeah, see what happens coming out of that. All right, 3-year-olds also in action yesterday at Tampa. We talked with Andrew Dembski a little bit. We talked with Horatio DePaz from Sagamore. The return of He Hate Me, who had been seen breaking the maiden in May at Pimlico, and then came to Belmont to win the Tremont in June of last year, and then had a little bit of a hiccup, got sick, and then went to the sidelines. So it was going to be interesting to see what He Hate Me did on the comeback in the Pasco. I put World of Trouble on top. Jason Service strains, Michael Dubb owns. They reached in for this horse. Big maiden breaker in a claiming race back in August. Then they went into a stakes race and just missed. World of Trouble is the number 7 and really kind of makes easy work of this. So he validates. Number 1 is He Hate Me, who I thought, as they came into the stretch, was going to get swallowed up and it was not going to be a big comeback. But then he kind of re-rallies a little bit and shows some life. And I think off the big layoff, I want to see one more from He Hate Me. But this was a nice performance from World of Trouble in the 3rd career start.
Yeah, absolutely it was. And as we watched the replay, I agree with you. At top of the stretch, I thought He Hate Me was done. But the nice little kick by the horse late in that race was nice to see. I think, I believe Manny was on too, right? Manny made the trip down.
Yeah.
So I think, putting Manny on there, I think the horse at 2-1 I wouldn't have bet. But obviously the way Manny's been riding, I understand those odds. But definitely was overmatched today, as we saw from the replay.
And again, a nice performance from World of Trouble. We'll see where that one goes next, if that horse manages to stick on the trail down there, as it were, or take some other options going forward. But it was a nice performance. Again, both of those are lightly raced. It was 3rd career start for World of Trouble, 3rd career start for He Hate Me, and He Hate Me was coming off a pretty long layoff. So I'll give. And as I talked to Horatio DePaz yesterday, you got the feeling they were kind of like, let's see what we have here. You come in with some confidence. I don't think the 1 post position was a big help there. And again, I liked that in the stretch he kind of showed another push again. So
and, I think that horse could stretch out as well. Just he could have won by a lot more than he did. So it's going to be interesting to see if he stays at the furlong level or just stretches it out to 2 turns.
Yeah, once you have a good 3-year-old, you have to assume the career debut was 5.5. That little stake at Gulfstream back in September was 7, and the race yesterday was 7 as well. And as you say, he did it in a fashion that says 2 turns probably won't be a problem. You think that'll be sooner rather than later, as it were. All right, let's take a look at another 3-year-old race. Again, of potentially some consequence, we'll see. Like the Pasco, it's hard to know because that was a sprint, and then, will these horses stretch out? But at Golden Gate, the question is more the surface, which is a synthetic surface at Golden Gate. So what's going to happen going forward? The Cal Derby yesterday at Golden Gate was won by number 5, Choo Choo. Choo Choo certainly looked like a contender, but Choo Choo in 5 career starts prior to yesterday, 4 of them were on the turf. Did come north from Southern California for Jerry Hollendorfer, and again, a lot of turf runners will translate to the synthetic. Choo Choo gets it done by a chart margin of 1 3/4 lengths as the even money favorite. Mugaritz came in off a couple of wins at Golden Gate and seemed a little logical. The 2 horse that runs second. Running third is Intimidate, who came off a win down at Los Al in a little stakes race there. Choo Choo, again, it's Jerry Hollendorfer. It's actually Calumet Farm, which is interesting. Right. But the question mark is going to be the surface. Mm-hmm. And you have a good 3-year-old. Do you try? But there's a lot of rich turf races for 3-year-olds as well. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if they look and maybe put whatever the Spiral at Turfway is called now. That's on synthetic, and that's a fairly rich race, so that may be on the agenda. But this seems more like a turf performer, Choo Choo.
Right, and a lot of the synthetic, as you said, they don't do terrible out on the turf, and we've seen that at the Gulfstream meet even too.
Yeah.
The horses coming down from Woodbine, they've all been at good prices, and they've been successful on the grass. So I don't think it's that big of a translation. I know a lot of the horses that run at Golden Gate and the synthetic, they go to Santa Anita and make an impact too at some good prices. So I really don't think the synthetic is that big of a deal to go to the turf.
Yeah, the turf and synthetic, they seem to bounce back and forth pretty well, but then the question mark becomes, and you have a good 3-year-old, I can see him giving it a shot, but as I say, there's I talk about a lot, that 3-year-old turf division is fun, I think, and there's a lot of rich races, so they can, it's nice they can pick their spots, and it wouldn't surprise me if they tried the dirt, but it also wouldn't surprise me if they said, you know what, because Jerry Hollendorfer, I think overall is kind of conservative, stick on the turf, but maybe try that race over at, and maybe you try that race, and then if you get the Derby points, then you're kind of forced to take your shot at the Derby. If you have enough points, you may feel like we have to go over there. So we'll see what happens with Choo Choo. But again, there are some question marks on the horses coming out of these 3-year-old stakes this weekend, as opposed to, as I say, the earlier set of circumstances. All right, let's go back to Tampa because again they had a nice stakes day yesterday. We talked with Andrew Dembski, and in the Gasparilla a little earlier on the card at Tampa yesterday. It looked like it went through Almond Roca. Barrier Island, to me, from Shug was potentially interesting. Barrier Island's going to be the number 5 horse, just too far back early to make a real challenge. Almond Roca does get it done. A little bit of a ding-dong battle with the Avil Racing horse, trained by Gerald Bennett, Our True Talent. At 21-1, the second longest price on the board, really gives the favorite all she can ask for, but eventually she kind of gets in gear under Pablo Morales and pulls away a little bit. So Almond Roca expected to win for Graham Motion, and as I say, Pablo Morales coming out of a big win in the Sandpiper down at Tampa a little earlier in the meet, and gets it done as the 3-5 favorite. So no surprise in the Gasparilla.
Yeah, really not a surprise. Just a tip of the cap to the one there. That the horse didn't give up and made him earn it down the stretch, and it looked like the 2 was going to swallow him up. Didn't give away, but really no surprise there.
Turned a $3 horse into a $28 exacta.
Exactly. You can't really complain about that. So, as you said, no surprise in that race at all.
A little bit later on the card was the Wayward Lass, again on a nice stakes program down at Tampa yesterday. The Wayward Lass was for the Fillies and Mares 4-year-olds and up, going 1.16 miles, and this race was interesting because Tappa 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 was in here. Talking with Andrew yesterday, I said to him, can you get past Tappa Tappa Tappa? 2 for 2 over the track, including a nice comeback effort last time with a big winning margin and a triple-digit buyer. That was off a melee off. Had run in the Black Eyed Susan last year, ran a disappointing 6th on the sideline since, but the comeback effort was phenomenal. So Tappa 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 goes off at 2-5. Tappa Tappa Tappa's there on the front. Just seems kind of, I hate when the jockey looks back. That to me is never a good sign. He looks back and you think, oh, they're going to catch him. And then you think, no. Tappa Tappa Tappa's got another gear. But no, coming up the rail, again under Pablo Morales, this one under Dano Centino, is well humored. Andrew Dembski kind of mentioned this horse is interesting yesterday to him. Arnaud Delacourt coming off a turf start back in November in a stakes race at Aqueduct. But the 2 dirt starts to begin the career were a couple of wins. The numbers seemed a little bit light, but had been off since November. Had some nice workouts underneath. And again, with Centino on board, comes up the rail to spring the upset. 5-1, which was the second choice. But if you took a shot against Tappa Tappa Tappa, you wound up with $10 and change. That was a disappointing effort, though, from Tappa Tappa Tappa. And again, Pablo Morales was on board. And when they look, I always feel like, I think a lot of times you see the horse way out in front and you think, they're just checking the rearview mirror a little bit. But more often than not, they're checking the rearview mirror because they can kind of feel, I may not have a good shot here as we come through the stretch.
When like Jose and Luis Saez do it a lot, they peek through the legs. I don't know if the horse is giving way or there's some left. So when they peek, as a bettor, you're just, you don't know what to expect. But usually, after the Black Eyed Susan, the track was really sloppy and, tried to get another race on your belt on a fast surface. But I didn't think Tappa 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 ran a bad race at all. I just think, the little bit of layoff and then I don't like too long to lay off when I bet. So I think that was a little bit too long to wait for Tappa, but a very nice ride up the rail. So again, I don't think the peaking helps anybody, especially as a bettor.
Yeah, that's never like to see that. All right, finally, let's go over to Oaklawn yesterday. The Dixie Belle, $125,000 up for grabs for the 3-year-old filly sprinters. And again, it looked like it was going to go through Amy's Challenge here. To me, I had Amy's Challenge over Mia Mischief. Mia Mischief, the Steve Asmussen runner, they were 3-2 and 9-5 on the morning line. It wound up, Amy's Challenge went off at 7-5, and the Asmussen horse went off at 4-5. They duke it out. Nice battle here to the wire, but it does wind up to be Amy's Challenge. 2 for 2 coming into this race, including a little stakes race at Canterbury most recently. Now 3 for 3 in the career, trained by Mac Robertson. And again, it's the Asmussen horse running second, but it's a ding-dong battle. Just as they get to the wire, Amy's Challenge pulls away a little bit. But again, to me, I had Amy's Challenge on top, so the disparity in odds, I appreciated. It was still only a $4 and change horse, but probably it may have juiced up my potential pick 4 ticket there a little bit. Maybe Mia Mischief was taking a little more action, because I thought the potential pick 4 payoffs when we got to the 9th race yesterday seemed a little inflated. So maybe the betting public was going for the Asmussen horse even in the pick 4.
Right. And if you think, you got to pick your spots in those exotic or multiple bets. If you find a single, obviously it looked like a logical single on paper, but I know Mike liked that horse too, coming in from Canterbury, and I was kind of hesitant, so that's a good play by you and Mike. But it was a very entertaining race, as you saw. But
you taking a shot at Canterbury?
Me? No, I'm not at all. It's just not my cup of tea. So I mean, so it was a good play by you and Mike, the horse coming in from Canterbury. So,
and that's tough. I always say to deciding which circuits play when they move to other, and Canterbury's one of those that you just don't see enough to get a good feel for a lot of time.
Exactly.
But what also attracted me, Mac Robertson is a high percentage guy, and so I gave him. So. Also down at Laurel yesterday, don't have the replays, but the Fire Plug yesterday, Awesome Banner wins that one. And I had said in a preview, I think Friday, when I was on the air, Awesome Banner just in the 2 races prior, it seemed to go south. The betting public gave the horse a little bit of a chance, though, going off at 9-2, the third choice, I guess. But Awesome Banner gets it done in the Fire Plug. Miss Locust Point at 1-9 gets it done in the What a Summer. The Jazzo, man, the racing at Aqueduct yesterday, they were ding dong. They were the Kodak man was happy there, but in the Jazzo, Do You Know Something at 4-5 is beaten by 5-2 Backside of the Moon. The interesting the note there, Leo O'Brien in the winner's circle, a 4-star Dave fame. So that was certainly good to see. And in the Sunshine Millions Classic at Gulfstream, Jay's Way gets it done on the front end over Mr. Jordan. I thought Richard the Great and Mr. Jordan were the 2 horses. I kind of tilted towards Richard the Great, maybe at the mile and an eighth. Between the 2, Mr. Jordan was better at the mile and eighth, but not better enough to beat Jay's Way. It seemed like Mr. Jordan was going to get it done, and then about the last 100 yards, the mile and an eighth caught up to him, and Jay's Way got up there under Jaramillo to get it done. Yeah, absolutely. Watching that race, that was just the one race I absolutely whiffed on. I liked Richard, and I thought it would be. I think they were 6-5, so I thought it'd be a 6-5 Colt exactly. That's what I bet. But Jay's Way, I did not see that coming, even though some of the betting public obviously did. Yeah, it was a fun race on that Sunshine Millions card yesterday. All right, we'll take a break. We've done a little review. Now we're going to do a little preview when we come back, little handicapping for this Sunday afternoon. Right after this, stay tuned.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrow and Sully Crotty. We're going to do a little handicapping before we do today, though. Tip of the cap, I alluded to it earlier. Nice day for you yesterday on the sheet, doing Gulfstream. Talk a little bit about the day yesterday.
You know, earlier in the card, you know, I just kept running second and third, and then during the Rainbow, I knew, you know, it was a tough card. Obviously, I knew we'd get some prices somewhere. But I was telling you during break, you know, I just tried to beat Starship Jubilee and XY Jet, and, you know, the two horses that I had on top, they ran second. I just couldn't get by them. But the big play was in the 12th race, the 11. I didn't think the horse would go off. The morning line 10-1 went off, I think 12-1 or 11-1. So I was happy about that. I threw a couple bucks on that horse to win and singled in the Rainbow. So it was good. It was, you know, it was obviously a good Saturday when you cash in a small ticket for that. Yeah. You know, a little over 1,000. So. You know, I just tried to, you know, two horses I tried to beat, I couldn't beat, but luckily I got some prices in the first couple legs there.
Yeah, if you can single a 12-1 shot, you're right.
Yeah.
Good ticket, and I know you've had some other success in the Rainbow. And you, I know, play a lot of times, you combine with some other people, and that gives you some more bang for your buck. I always say, at the 20-cent increment, you can put together a whale-sized ticket yourself. A $50 or $60 ticket. At the $2 increment is $500 or $600. Yeah. But if you want to play around, and I know you and your partners have hit some of the ones that have paid nicely as well. And that if you jump in with some other people, and I've said these big fields, there are a lot of kind of skull busters, but it allows you to maybe add some horses into the mix.
Right, exactly. You know, as you said, Seth, we try to, the people I bet with, you know, we put in X amount of money and we try to beat some of these horses and we go deep. You know, the first couple legs we go deep, and that's when, you know, if you can knock a lot of tickets out in the first couple legs, then you're sitting good. So that's what we try to do. But yesterday took it a little easy, and, you know, it paid off in the end. So I was happy. I know
you and your partners have been in that situation. That's got to feel good when you get to the last race and that graphic comes up. There's only like 8 tickets.
Eight tickets left, and you have 5 of them. Yeah, it's a good feeling. So.
Yeah. I'm shooting for the console, but on those, that has to be a very good feeling. All right, let's take a look at some of the action for this afternoon. We're kind of going to bounce around. We've got some Santa Anita, some Oaklawn, a couple of Gulfstream races, Aqueduct in the mix. You're going to start things out taking a look at Santa Anita today. Their 7th race is an optional claimer, 40 tags, non-winners are one other than Santa Anita's 7th race. They'll go a mile and an eighth on the grass.
You know, I just thought this was a very interesting race, you know, especially on the grass. One of the horses coming in for Mr. and Mrs. Jerome Moss, coming in from Golden Gate, which is what we talked about. So it's just a really competitive race on paper. You know, there's a lot of speed in the race. There's a lot of horses taking stalking rolls, and there's a couple closers here. But I had the 6 on top. I went 6, 7, 8, and 4 here. Number 6 is 4-1 on the morning line, going off for Patrick Gallagher, he's had a nice 2017. He doesn't get a ton of mounts, and he does successful in winning at a 14% clip. And the horse is, you know, coming into the optional claiming. Off an optional claiming 62, it goes to the optional claiming 40. I think fits in nicely and has a lot of closing speed. I think it's going to be quick fractions with the amount of speed and stalking rolls in this race. And there is other closing speed here, but I think what we saw 2 back from the horse making up a little bit of ground with slow fractions. I think the fractions are going to be quicker, and obviously going to the optional claiming 40 field. I just had to get the nod to a 4-1 morning line price. And then number 7 I have in the 2nd spot. 3-1 on the morning line. This is a really balanced horse. We've seen the horse go onto the lead. We've seen the horse close like last time out. Close a little bit in a nice stakes race at Del Mar Lost a pretty good field there, pretty competitive field as well. Comes to Santa Anita, has not had too much success, but when the horse is running the money, has 2 wins there. So it's going to be interesting to see where the horse is placed, if it's on the lead, or is it going to have a nice closing speed. And then number 8 as well, 5-1, that's Temple Keys. Kent Desormeaux was up for this horse. Going to take a shot here, 0 for 7 in 2017. 1 for 13 at the track. But I'm just going to take a little shot here with Kent, and another closer here who has been improving in this optional claiming field. Again, the mile distance stretching out, I think, will help the horse. Just ran out of time, I thought, last time out, and ran a really nice 5th by, a little bit over than a length. So I just think, with the closing speed, the buyers are staying consistent, and the horse has been in every race. I think stretching out will help at a nice price. So I had 6, 7, 8, and 4 in the 7th at Santa Anita. Moving on to Tampa Bay, the race number 9, 6.5 furlongs allowance optional claiming race for $23,500.
This will be a little play for me. I'll go 3 deep with an exacta in here. As always, you have to look at the odds. But I think with the 10-horse field, and again, we're talking before scratches, assuming we get the full field, I think there'll be enough value in here. I have it 9, 10, 2, and 4, but I'll box up those top 3, the 9, 10, and the 2. The 9 is Stormy Embrace, goes out for Kathleen O'Connell, comes in off a second in the little stakes race most recently, but has some nice early positional speed. Buyer figures have improved in the last 3 starts. Wilmer Garcia on board for those, on board again today. I just think, given the scenario, this horse is primed to really pop and run nicely this afternoon. Second spot, I used Orientate to Love. We've got a little shot of the stretch run of this one's last race. Orientate to Love will be the winner here, and this was an optional 32 claimer with an N2X, so a very similar race. I say it often. Why not right back and get it done today as well, coming back in a similar event? So won by a chart margin of 2 here, and again, it was a similar condition. That was 7. This is 6.5. I don't see any reason why the distance, the cutback a half a furlong is going to be any obstacle. And I like that we're talking 4-1 on the morning line. I hope we get that. If we do, this is the one that'll add a little bit of value to the play potentially. So 9 over the 10, and then also in my mix we'll go Renee's Cat, who again has a little positional early speed, comes off a win at 7 furlongs last time. It gets maybe a little bit lesser, but I like that scenario. I think overall just 3rd best on the numbers, and I can put that in the mix. I think I have the trio that are the 3 best in here. We'll need the morning line to kind of hold up, but again, with a 10-horse field, we've got 2-1, 4-1, and 9-2. Should we get in and around that mix, I think there'll be enough value to play around and box up the top 3 in here. So I have it 9, 10, 2, and 4, but I have it 9, 10, 2, and 4, and I'll box up the top 3, the 9, 10, and the 2. All right. Sully is going to take a look at a little Gulfstream, and I'll take a look at a little Gulfstream as well as we progress. But Sully's going to take a look at the 10th race at Gulfstream today. It's an optional claimer, 35 tags, non-winners of 1 other than. In the 10th at Gulfstream, they're going 9 furlongs on the grass.
So on the 1 sheet, I made a little changes from last night to this morning. I have 7, 3, 10, and 5 here. Number 7 is Enchanting Kitten, going off for the Ramses. Chad Brown trains the horse. Nice little turf horse here. We've seen running a grade 3. That was at the NYRA circuit. Ran a nice race at Keeneland 4 back. That was earlier in April. But last time out at Gulfstream, ran a nice 2nd, was the favorite that day, lost to Pensacola. That was a great race by that horse. Gets Jose Ortiz on the grass, switching up from Johnny V. Johnny V's on the number 9 horse, who's a big play here as well. But I just think Enchanting Kitten, just the experience the horse has had running in stakes races, big allowance races as well, and the connections, the Ramses, Chad Brown, they're always successful down in Florida and up here in New York. So I think putting Jose Ortiz on at a nice 5-2 price, can't really ignore the horse, and the horse does have some nice closing speed. Number 3, 20-1 on the morning line. I just think with Louis Size up and Michael Matz, I just think the horse is a good play here at 20-1. A horse that's really balanced on paper, ran in some allowance races, really didn't do any running, but did some running earlier on in the career at Delaware Park and at Monmouth Park. Had a nice fourth, a nice third, and a win. Those were all at good prices as well. I just think a horse that you should use in your exotics, triples, and supers. Louis Size on the grass. Dick touched on it earlier. Very, very impressive rider, and has been last Champions Meet and this championship meet as well. I think 20-1, you can't really ignore this horse. And number 10, Jose Lezcano, another turf rider that came down to Florida and really is doing his thing. He's riding really well, going out for Mark Cassie. That's Magical Sky, a horse that has run in the money twice here at Gulfstream in 2 starts. He's going to take a first crack here at the distance. I don't think will be a problem. Ran it on mile and 16th, ran a nice third, and a great closing effort last time out. Pretty balanced fractions in that race, a 24 and a 48. Hopefully it's a little quicker today, and does have a ton of closing speed from the outside stall. I think the outside closing speed always dangerous because you can make your own trip. You don't need to brake, and you're going to have a nice spot behind some dying horses to swing out on the far turn. So 10th race at Gulfstream, I went 7, 3, 10, and 5. Oaklawn Park, the 7th race. It's a mile main special weight for $75,000.
Oaklawn, it's been fun over the first 5 days I guess we've had so far. Whatever, I think it's been a lot of fun, and these kind of races help that out. Maiden special 3-year-olds going a mile for me, 3, 4, 2, and 6. I put Taylor's Sense on top. Comes in for Steve Asmussen off a couple of good second place finishes at Remington. I've said it, and it's played out really since the beginning of the meet. These Remington shippers tend to get overlooked because this is an Asmussen runner. This one won't. But we have 7-2 on the morning line, and I think given that bettors focus so much on buyer numbers, I think the 4 Applewood will take some action, and perhaps a couple others over the number 3 Taylor Sense. But I'll take the shot on an Asmussen transplant from Remington Park. Taylor Sense on top, Applewood in the second spot. Just the solid numbers as compared to this bunch in Kentucky. In the third spot, I'm going to use the other Asmussen, 10-1 on the morning line. I think we'll get that off the career debut, but makes the second start for Asmussen a Son of Orb. I think this horse is going to be better than we saw in the first start, where there was a little bit of trouble, got off to a slow start, and then just never really got into the race. Expect improvement this afternoon at potentially a little bit of a price. Shane Zane in the third spot. The Doug O'Neill shippers from Southern California have to be paid attention to. So that Oaklawn 7 today for me, 3, 4, 2, and 6. Feature today at Aqueduct is the ladies' handicaps, $100,000 up for grabs. Fillies and Mares going a mile and an eighth. What did you see in the 8th at Aqueduct?
This is the race of the day online and all over our social media pages. It's just a really nice race. I have 4, 2, and 1 here. Crimson Frost, Dylan Davis, and Linda Rice. Linda's got a couple horses here. I have the 2, just got out as well. And that's a Linda horse. But Crimson Frost ran at Laurel last time out in a nice $100,000 race. Really didn't do any running there. Had a router keys on earlier throughout 2017. It has been competitive. A nice first by 7 and an allowance 64. That was 3 races back. And raced at Aqueduct last 2 back. Had a nice 3rd place finish there. Lost to Divine Miss Gray, who, this horse has had a nice little run in the Naira circuit as well. The 2 races at Aqueduct stand out, a win and a place. The place was, again, 2 back. But the win at Aqueduct, that was earlier on in the career. So I think a little bit of experience for this horse compared to the rest of the field. And with a win on the surface, it's going to help the horse out. Dylan Davis has been riding very well as well. Number 2 has just got out, Manny Franco, who's been on fire, since Belmont last spring. Another Linda Rice horse, really balanced on paper, won last time with Jose. I just think if the horse gets to the lead, it's going to be very tough for the horse to win. I think needs a nice stalking roll, and it's going to have a little kick left. 3-1's a great price for the horse, and I think a little Linda Exacta 4-2 is not a bad play. And underneath, I threw Paco Lopez, number 1, a lot of closing speed. First-time starter here at Aqueduct, but a nice Churchill Downs 2 back, a nice second place finish. Lost to Sully's Dream 2 back in the slop, and that was a nice race by Sully's Dream. So in the feature at Aqueduct, I have 4, 2, and 1. Moving on to Gulfstream Park's 8th race. It's a mile and a 16th on the grass, claiming race for $21,000.
To me, this is maybe a tri-key, or maybe you box them up because I think the odds will warn, and if there's an upset, maybe you get that and then back up with the tri-key. But I have 11, 2, 6, and 8, and I could make an argument for putting the 11 on top of, as I say, a tri-key. Raise the bar. Earlier in the career was in the Chad Brown barn. There was some high hopes for this horse early on. Didn't quite live up to that. Now has kind of moved down the claiming ladder and takes another step down the claiming ladder. Off a decent try last time at the 25 level. Now goes to 16. So I think this horse, Jose Ortiz on board, is absolutely logical. 9-5 on the morning line. The question mark may be the outside post position, but it just seems to have an edge on this bunch. So raise the bar on top. And then, there are a couple of horses in my mix that have some odds, as I say. Maybe you can play around a little bit. Frontline Page, 6-1 on the morning line. I just look at the horse on the class relief and some of the numbers underneath. I think this horse is better than that 6-1 price. Let's see what we get at post time. Now, last couple of races, we're looking at a come from the clouds kind of style. I never like that. You're always up against it. But again, with the class relief, who knows? Maybe this horse can be up a little bit closer today. I do think the potential is there to be heard from in the lane. Semblance of Order comes in, also getting some class relief. Draw a line through the last race on the dirt. We'll appreciate the return to turf. You're getting 9-2 there in Immunity, the number 8. 10-1 on the morning line. Another one with some class relief and some back numbers that I think indicate this horse can absolutely be in the mix. So if those morning line prices hold up, the underneath horses are interesting, as I say. Maybe box them all up and then go a little stronger with the 11 on top. I'm curious, the 11 for you today, did you use raise the bar on top?
Yesterday or today?
Today in the 8th race.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, in the 8th race, no, I didn't. I have front line. I just switched. I have 2 11.
Oh, okay.
6.
Oh, very good. So the
6-1,
yeah, you got to have the 6-1. We'll see if that 6-1 holds up. As I say, that to me, with the class relief, that may float away a little bit. But the 8th is again an interesting race if you wanted to play around a little bit. If the morning line holds up, but take a look at those odds. In the 8th at Gulfstream, 11, 2, 6, and 8. All right, time to wrap things up. Racing Across America on a Sunday morning. Before we go, do want to remind you that if you stop down to the Clubhouse Racebook today, you can watch the football action and enjoy all the racing action. It's always a lot of fun Sundays here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Coming up on Wednesday, the 1% Florida bonus. If you have a Capital Rewards account and you bet into Florida racing on Wednesdays this month, you get the bonus. More information on that at capitalotb.com. Bet 50, get 50 continues through the month of January. Sign up for a new account, bet 50 in before the end of the month, and get $50 put into your account by Capital OTB. Thanks to our friends at Gulfstream for their sponsorship. Gulfstream Park, champions start here. All right, Sully, all packed up. Friday, you and I head down.
I'm
Pegasus.
really excited.
Yeah, should be fun.
It's going to be warm down there, I think, but the weather changes really quickly, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be fun. We're headed down on Friday. We'll be doing some audio cut-ins Friday afternoon, then all day Pegasus day next Saturday down at Gulfstream. So tune in for that here on the network. Sully, appreciate the thoughts this morning, and as I say, we'll see you at the airport on Friday.
Absolutely. Thanks, Seth.
All right, Sully Friday, Seth Merrow here on Racing Across America on a Sunday morning. I'll be back in about an hour or so with OTB Live. Stay tuned. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.